So the Tourism Business Council of South Africa outlined some of its key priorities when it met with newly appointed Minister Patricia de Lille. This is part of their tourism recovery plan that they hope will get to see 21 million arrivals in South Africa. What's in these plans and how exactly was the meeting with the minister? Well, we are joined now by Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. Thank you so much, Tshifhiwa, for joining me here on eNCA. Let's first discuss your meeting with Patricia de Lille. Are you as an organization happy with her being appointed now as the new Minister of Tourism? And are you on the same page after today's meeting?
Well, thank you for having me. We did meet with the Minister of Tourism in Cape Town on Friday. It was a good meeting. We discussed various issues that are critical to the growth of tourism in the country, and also various issues that are stumbling block to the growth of tourism in the country. And we have agreed that we will meet further in the coming few weeks to discuss further in detail the issues that we have raised. So the meeting went well. I think that it shows the commitment that the minister has for the industry and the passion that she has. And I think that we will be able to work well together into the future, combine our efforts, and make sure that the public sector and the private sector works well together in advancing tourism in South Africa. So indeed, the meeting went well and it was fruitful.
Now you would like, of course, the private sector to get more involved and be in a greater partnership with the tourism industry, with the tourism department. Let's talk about some of those key objectives that, of course, would help the country to achieve what you would like to see, that stated target of 21 million arrivals in South Africa.
Well, we have been talking about this 21 million arrivals pre-COVID. That's when we put that target of 21 million arrivals. We since, because of COVID, had to revise that target to about 15.6 million arrivals by 2030, on the basis that we've lost about 3 years or so in terms of COVID and the fact that people were not traveling. So the target, of course, from government point of view, will always remain as 21 million. That's what we aspire to have, because it will create jobs. Now, how do we get to that? We have put together what we call the Tourism Recovery Plan. And the Tourism Recovery Plan talks to about 7 key things that we need to deliver in order for tourism to recover from COVID. In addition to that, we as a private sector have been saying that, we need to work closer with the public sector in the planning and ensuring that the things that needs to be done and funded from the public sector side of things are the things that us in the private sector are well aware of, we agree to, we've had an input to. So as an example, we need to look at the markets in terms of the source markets that we target. Are they still relevant? Are they going to give us the numbers that we need? Are we doing enough marketing in those source markets? The second part of it is to make sure that here at home, while we are reigniting demand overseas, do we have the infrastructure here at home to support this demand that we're reigniting? And also, are we solving the stumbling blocks that we have here at home in terms of making sure that everyone in the tourism sector is able to deliver the experience that we promise? So that's on the supply side of things that we need to deal with. And also, there are many stumbling blocks that are out there. We have been talking about the vehicle operator permits for the tour operators that are across the country, the changes in the legislation that's needed, the fact that we need to speed up the process and make sure that everyone who operates those vehicles are able to get the operating licenses on time. We're making some progress on that, but there's still a gap that we still need to deal with. And thankfully, we met also with the Minister of Transport when we were in Cape Town to talk about those matters. So there are various issues that we need to deal with in order for us to get to the 21 million or to get to the 15.6 million. Yeah. And those are driven by various factors, source markets that we need to identify. The new source markets being China and India are important because those are the ones that are going to give us the numbers that we need. And of course, Africa as a continent, it's critical to give us the numbers. If we don't play our part in Africa, we're going to lose our market share and people are going to go outside of the African continent instead of coming down to South Africa and traveling within the continent.
Let's talk about one of those issues also that you didn't quite mention right now, the one of e-visa the e-visa process and how that's coming along. Of course, you also mentioned airport e-infrastructure that needs to be upgraded. So how's that process coming along? Is that still an objective?
Well, it is an objective, and it talks to what we call an ease of access. When anyone is considering traveling to a particular destination, they look at, is it easy to go to that particular destination? For us here in South Africa, if someone is traveling to South Africa and they need visa, they look at, is it easy to get a visa? And also, where can I apply? Do I have to go to the embassy or high commission or consulate and so forth and so on, or an agency that's, associated with ourselves? So that ease of access is quite important, and e-visa gives us an advantage. There are many countries that have implemented that. If you go to Turkey, they've implemented e-visa for quite a number of years now. And if you want to travel in the next 5 days, you're able to apply, you're able to get there. For us here in South Africa, we need to make sure that the e-visa system that we pull together and that we implement is world-class, and it responds to the needs of tourists and the business community. There are many investors that want to travel to South Africa. Some of them have to stand in line, and they have billions of rands that they want to invest into the country. We need to make it easier for them to also come into the country, invest, because it also builds on, the business side of tourism. So the e-visa system that we have currently, we need to get a report on it. We need to understand how far it is. We need to understand whether it's world-class. We also need to understand how long it takes for someone who has applied to get their e-visa, back to them. And we need to look at other mechanisms. For an example, if someone has already applied for a visa for the US as an example, and it's valid, or UK, or many other countries that have a rigorous system of getting into the destination, how do we recognize those visas when someone wants to come to South Africa? Let's say someone who's coming from an African country, they already have a visa for the US, they have a visa for the UK, Australia, or many other countries, or EU. How do we recognize that visa and say, this person has been vetted, they are a traveler, they go around the world? How do we give them that ease of access to our destination? Because we do know that they've gone through rigorous, screening process. So we need to look at those things as well to make sure that, we remain competitive. So e-visa is key. And I don't think that, as a country, we still need to be talking about that. We need to be talking about how fast it is at the moment and how it's yielding results. Because other countries are far ahead. We're going to have to look at many other different things that we need to implement, when people arrive or before they come into the country. But the e-visa system needs to be advanced enough at the moment to allow all those other countries that requires visa to come to South Africa to be able to apply online and to be able to get their visa as soon as possible. And at some point, even within hours or within a day.
Yeah, exactly. As a tourism country, we would definitely need to get those sort of systems up to date and up to scratch. I want to talk about, the Western Cape and KZN. Those are the two provinces that are basically seeing the most tourists, the influx of tourists in this country. How do we make sure that other provinces also benefit from the tourism sector and the tourism industry? How do we grow the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape? How do we make them tourist attractions as well? Because now what we've seen now recently as well with the festive season, the summer season, we've seen so many tourists from Europe and the USA going to Cape Town, and there's been a huge influx. It's always been the case, but is it now time for us to also make our other provinces, a selling point to tourists? And how do we do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have always been talking about the issue of geographical spread in terms of tourists being able to visit other areas of interest in the country. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we market those areas of interest in those provinces. And is to also make sure that those areas of interest are not only an interest to ourselves as South Africans, but they should be an interest to an international traveler, and they should see value in visiting those areas. So the marketing element is quite important, and you're quite right. Western Cape, KZN, Gauteng are the three provinces that get, a lion's share of either domestic visitors or international visitors. And also there are other provinces like Limpopo does very well, Mpumalanga does very well because of the Kruger National Park, and of course Limpopo has the northern part of the Kruger National Park and many game reserves. And when you look at other provinces like, your Free State, your Northern Cape, your Northwest, and others, including Eastern Cape, there's still a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that we unearth the experiences. And the people who need to like those experiences first are South Africans.
Yeah.
When South Africans like those experiences, international visitors start to take notice and say, well, I can go to Northern Cape because there is this experience or this product that's deemed to be world-class, and these are the things that I can do. What we need to avoid is to say that we've got one thing to do, somewhere in the Northern Cape or somewhere in Limpopo, in the far-flung corners of this country. And no one is going to travel for 5 hours to do just one thing. There has to be multiple things to do in the area that are interesting enough for someone to say, I am going there and I'm going to spend 3 or 4 days in that particular area and I'm going to enjoy myself.
I'm sorry to have to cut you short here. We have I have one last question. It's a very important one. Of course, the power crisis, is that still a big issue for you and for the country when it comes to the tourism sector? This will be my last one, and please just very shortly tell us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's a big one. We have many businesses, especially the small businesses, are suffering in terms of keeping the lights on, bed and breakfast, and many other small businesses within tourism, and also big businesses are spending a lot of money in terms of making profit and hiring more people. They are spending more money on the diesel cost and making sure that they keep the lights on. We cannot afford to not have the lights as a hospitality industry because we're delivering on the experience that we promise a traveler before they depart their own country. So it is a problem.
Thank you so much. That, of course, is Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa from the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. Just giving us an update there. Of course, they met with Patricia de Lille, the new Minister of Tourism, and what he said is they are on the same page when it comes to seeing growth in the tourism sector in South Africa.